Let's talk about a powerful idea, something that's a bit of a paradox. What if I told you that the key to building real authority and trust isn't about getting better at persuading people, but about doing the exact opposite? I think this idea could completely change the way you communicate.
So let me start by asking you a question, one that really gets to the heart of this whole thing. When you create content, a presentation, an article, whatever it is your main goal to move people to a new belief or action? Or is it just to help them locate where they are right now? How you answer that, well, it changes absolutely everything. You see, most of us, without even realizing it, fall into what I call the persuasion trap. It's kind of the default mode for most professionals, but it's also the very reason so much of our work just fails to connect and build that lasting trust we're all after. I mean, think about it for a second. From the marketing emails you get to the big company-wide announcements, the goal is pretty much always the same, isn't it? Move someone from point A, where they are now, to point B, where you want them to be. It's all about convincing them, changing their mind, getting them to do something. That's the standard playbook. But here's the problem. The second people feel that they're being pushed, even a little bit, this invisible wall just shoots up. Their brain literally flips a switch from listening to evaluating. They get defensive, they start questioning your motives, and poof, they've disengaged. So it turns out, persuasion often creates the exact resistance it's trying so hard to overcome. So, if pushing doesn't work, what's the alternative? Well, it's this really powerful reframe, a shift from persuasion to what we'll call orientation. So instead of trying to give people directions, you just give them a map. You help them see their own position more clearly. And this slide just nails that core shift. We're moving away from instructional content, the stuff that tells people, here's what you should do, and we're moving towards diagnostic language, which simply observes, hey, this is what's happening. You're shifting from being a director to being a diagnostician. And this is where the magic happens. Real authority, the kind that creates that deep, solid trust, it doesn't come from a big argument. It emerges in that quiet moment of recognition, when someone hears your words and just thinks, wow, that's me. That's exactly my situation. They feel seen, they feel understood, not sold to. Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, but how do we actually apply it? This is where we get really practical. It all boils down to a single, super clear rule that you can use for everything you create from now on. And this is it. This is the big one. Before you publish anything, you have to ask yourself, is this piece designed to help my audience locate where they are, or is it trying to move them somewhere else? Because if it's the latter, you're not building authority. You're just back in the persuasion game. And here's the psychology of why this works so well. When you help someone locate themselves, it creates a feeling of safety, right? There's no pressure. And that feeling of safety, that is the only fertile ground where trust can actually grow. And once that trust is there, people are just naturally drawn to you. You've created a kind of inbound gravity. To make this even more practical, let's break it down into 4 diagnostic filters. You can think of these like a checklist to run your communication through to make sure you're actually diagnosing, not directing. Let's just zoom in on the second one, language discipline, because this is so actionable. It all comes down to the verbs you choose. You want to avoid all those directive verbs like need, should, or fix, and instead use observational verbs like exposes, signals, or happens. That simple change keeps your content explanatory instead of corrective.
Okay, now for the 4th filter. And this one's really counterintuitive. It's gonna feel a bit weird at first. It's called the early exit, and it's all about resisting that natural urge to wrap everything up in a neat little bow.
So first, this means no tiny moral at the end. The minute you add the lesson here is, you reveal your hand, that you had a persuasive agenda all along. The diagnosis has to be allowed to just stand on its own. It also means no grand conclusion. Your job isn't to connect all the dots for your audience, it's just to present the condition with clarity. Believe me, the conclusion they draw for themselves will always, always be more powerful than one you could ever provide. And finally, and I know this is the toughest one for a lot of us, no call to action. The very absence of a CTA is an incredibly powerful signal. It communicates, hey, my only goal here was to provide some clarity, not to get something from you. And that is a massive deposit in the bank of trust. Okay, now let's get into how this authority is built through even more subtle choices. It's not just about what you say, but also how you present the information itself. Take capitalization, for example. In this framework, you don't use it for emphasis or to create excitement. You use it purely for navigation. It marks the big conceptual anchors, the pause points. It helps guide the reader calmly through your ideas. It adds authority without adding any urgency. Now, once you've created a purely diagnostic piece of content, there's a crucial final step. You have to freeze it. Why? Because any attempt to go back and improve it later almost always reintroduces an intent to persuade, and that intent can instantly shatter the trust you've built. The diagnosis has to stand on its own. So when you really commit to this whole diagnostic approach, what's the long-term payoff? Well, it's a complete game changer. You effectively stop competing for attention in an already overcrowded field. The outcomes are just so powerful. Your content becomes timeless. It ages instead of expires because it's describing a real condition, not a passing trend. People come to you already feeling understood. Sales calls become less about convincing and more about collaborating. And ultimately, you stop being just another voice. You become a reference point, the place people go to truly understand their world. And that brings us to the single biggest risk of using this methodology. It's not that people will get bored. That's not it at all. The real danger is our own confidence anxiety. You know that internal pressure we feel as experts to always be tweaking, optimizing, and adding something new? That impulse feels really productive, but it's actually just interference. Which brings us to the final governing principle of this whole explainer. If you remember one thing, remember this. If the message still feels true, it doesn't need to feel new. Your authority compounds when you allow your message to stay still long enough for others to orient themselves to it. Its truth, not its novelty, is its real power.